Welcome to the Monday, February 22nd, 2021 Maplewood City Council meeting. For all of those listening out there, if you are interested to know more about what is happening in Maplewood, you can check out the State of the City event that we had this week. It was a virtual event. It replaced our usual lunchtime gathering at our community center. But it's a condensed version of city events in 2020 and what we're looking forward to in 2021. I myself got great feedback about the event. I want to thank Joe Sharon. Someone actually indicated that Mr. Sharon should be considered the Johnny Carson of Maplewood. I should pass that on to Mr. Sharon. Thank you also to Kevin Schmidt and to Chad Burgo. They were really behind the scenes making all of that work, as was Michael Folds. I want to thank Melinda Coleman and the department heads. They shared their superpowers with us in a creative short little video that I think I got several comments on it, that what fun that was to learn more about the department heads. And I want to thank our city staff, everyone who works for Maplewood, who really, when in reflection and looking back at my comments during the State of the City, the people who really helped us achieve so much despite being in a pandemic, our city staff. City council members, we are really very fortunate to have great staff. And so for anyone out there who wants to learn more about what's going on in Maplewood, some really wonderful things, check out our State of the City event from last week. I think over 150 people signed up. So it was a really big Zoom event. And I think it's very informative, and it also was a lot of fun. I think it shows the creativity of staff. And I see Mr. Sharon is indicating that he'd prefer to be the Jimmy Fallon of Maplewood. Well, the comment that I got was the Johnny Carson. So take that for what it's worth. But anyway, it was a really fun event. It was a fun event. So thank you, everyone, for pulling all of that together. So with that, let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. City Clerk Sint, would you please do our roll call for us?
Councilmember Cave.
Here.
Councilmember Juniman.
Here.
Councilmember Knutson.
Here.
Councilmember Villavicencio.
Here.
Mayor Abrams.
I am here as well. Council members, is there a motion to approve the agenda for tonight?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Knutson, seconded by Juniman. Is there any further discussion?
I have one council presentation, Mayor.
And what is that, Councilmember Juniman?
A special Maplewood couple.
Okay. Now I'm curious as to who that might be. We have a lot of special couples in Maplewood, but okay. Special Maplewood couple. Anyone else have anything else they'd like to add? Okay, then let's go to a vote. And once again, council members, the order tonight will be Councilmember Cave, Councilmember Juniman, Councilmember Knutson, and Councilmember Villavicencio. Councilmember Cave, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Juniman.
Aye.
Councilmember Knutson.
Aye.
Councilmember Villavicencio.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Moving on to the approval of the minutes, council members. This is for the February 8th, 2021 City Council meeting. Is there a motion?
I move approval. Second.
Moved by Juniman, seconded by Cave. The motion to approve the February 8th, 2021 City Council meeting minutes. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, then Councilmember Cave, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Juniman.
Aye.
Councilmember Knutson.
Aye.
Councilmember Villavicencio.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. moving on to appointments and presentations, the council calendar update, City Manager Coleman.
Thank you, Mayor Abrams, members of the City Council. The council calendar is just a snapshot of our meetings that are coming up in March. On March 8th at the council meeting, we'll have the Rice and Larpenter funding agreement and the annual report. We also have 2 public hearings for the Montana-Nebraska pavement rehab project and the South Crest Ferndale pavement rehab project. We will also be having a closed session regards to potential litigation. And then on March 10th, we have the Ponds of Battle Creek community meeting, which is from 4 to 6 p.m. And you discussed that at our workshop earlier this evening. With regard to projects or areas of concern, topics of interest, we have concluded our work on the rules of approval of minutes and the quarterly financial report that will be done. And then we have parking space requirement review, which I understand from Mr. Thompson that the Planning Commission is going to start looking at that. And then we have the flavored tobacco update. You have a report from Ms. Sint attached to the calendar. And if you have any other questions, we'd be happy to address those. And if you have any topics of interest that you'd like to have staff take a look at, now is the time to let us know about that. So with that, I'd be happy to answer questions or talk about any concerns or interest areas.
Thank you, City Manager Coleman. Why don't we, council members, let's chat just a little bit about the flavored tobacco update. Thank you, City Clerk Sint, for putting that staff report together for us. From my perspective, I mean, I guess I'll just jump in on this. I don't see that there really is anything further for us to do. Flavored tobacco products are limited to adults only by state and federal law. And, I guess I'm not particularly interested in going any further with any ordinances that would restrict flavored tobacco products, since they're already restricted for anyone under 21. I guess from my perspective, I think less government sometimes can be much better. I don't want to get into legislating specifics about adult conduct. It seems to me then we should, this is similar in my mind to then restricting flavored vodkas or any other kind of beverage. I'm not interested in going any further with this. I think we've got the information. It's already restricted from young people anyway. So I want to hear from the rest of the council members and see what your thoughts are. Councilmember Cave.
I would concur with what you had to say, Mayor. Andrea, thank you so much for putting it together. And for the request, I think it was Kathy requested it. It's very interesting to see, but I will say that I have no interest in going any further. I think it already sets the stage where we need to be. So really, I don't have anything else to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Juniman.
Thank you, Mayor. I thought it was interesting to see what people are doing. And once again, we can wait and see what the legislature does, because there are several bills moving along. We'll see what they decide to do. The only thing that slightly intrigues me is restricting the sales of flavored tobacco to tobacco shops only, as another way of keeping it away from kids, since they have flavors that seem to appeal to them. So that'd be the only one I might be interested in down the road, just to see. But thank you. And thanks, Ms.
Councilmember Knutson.
It was a very thorough report. Appreciate it. I have no interest in doing anything further.
Okay. And Councilmember Villavicencio.
I would concur with you, Mayor, about your comments on this issue. I think that if the legislature decides to do something, then they will. But I don't think it's for us to do. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. And then in terms of adding to council comments, I wanted to bring something to the attention of my fellow council members, something that I'm not certain that you may necessarily be so aware of. Right now, we have at least a half a dozen properties, if not a few more, that are really problem properties in Maplewood. And, we have a process that includes inspections, and it includes citations, and it even includes owners getting billed for excessive consumption of city services, for ordinance violations, for basically having, junk cars and building materials and, just really unsightly property and not maintaining their property. And, it certainly is a topic that as the mayor, I routinely get calls or emails about. It's interesting because when I was on the council, I very seldom ever got any of those calls or emails. And I do know from speaking with former Mayor Slawick that she did get a lot of contacts about problem properties. So I want to give you an example of a property that I was working with emailing. I had received a complaint from a resident emailing staff about. It's a property in our city that the latest update was that the owner was issued 2 misdemeanor citations back in October for really some junky property that, very unsightly, not maintained, junk sitting out there, and neighbors are basically complaining about it. The owner has also been billed for $775 in excessive city services consumption. That property, the owner is going to be arraigned in court in May. And the property was just inspected again today. And in fact, our inspector had to be accompanied by the police. And so, we have these problem properties, and the issue that comes up is that our inspector can go out to the property, try to work with the owner. And I think that has been certainly, and that will continue to be a priority, is to try to work with the owner to bring them into compliance. But it really gets very aggravating for all of the neighbors because nothing happens for months and months and months. And since I've been on the council, I know that there have been properties where once it gets to court, then the judge will give them yet, despite the fact it's been months and months and months already to get it to court, to get the issue before a judge, the judge will give them another couple of months to try to come into compliance. And the whole process just drags on. And it's very aggravating and frustrating because, we're following all of the rules. And what I have learned, I've discussed this with City Manager Coleman about what are some other things that we can do that might assist in moving this along so that these problem properties are not, nothing is happening on them for months and months and months, coming up to a year, and they're still not cleaned up. And so City Manager Coleman was talking about some other cities that she's aware of where they have actually made an ordinance change where they have interjected, before going to court, an administrative hearing process. And I'm going to ask City Manager Coleman to weigh in on this, that I would like to suggest to the council members for these properties, these problems that we're having, where it's consuming so much staff time and we're just not getting the compliance in any kind of a timely manner, that we look at some alternatives and see if we can do something that is certainly more efficient and more effective, because ultimately we want to work with people to get the properties cleaned up, but we don't want these issues to linger for months and months. And even we have some properties that have been problem properties for years that they get cleaned up and then they go right back to it. And so City Manager Coleman, could you weigh in on that, please?
Oh, certainly, Mayor. Thank you. Once upon a time, I was a city planner and I was in charge of code enforcement. So I remember the experience and how frustrating and difficult it could be. In one community I worked in, we went to an administrative citation process whereby the city would bring in a hearing officer, and the person who was out of compliance with whatever codes would be brought in, and it would be heard, and then the city could fine if certain things weren't picked up, changed, the situation was cleaned up, they would get fined. And it worked out really well because the fines would pay for the hearing officer, and they would come like once a month, depending on the caseload, to hear those hearings. And it really gives control to the community instead of waiting in the process, which Mayor just outlined about how long everything takes. And then sometimes the judges will even just fine the people and they don't do anything. So then you wait for months and months and then nothing happens. And for all of you on the council, you've been living in the community for a while, we do have some problem properties. So this is something that Mr. Thompson and his staff is looking at. They're working with our prosecuting attorney, Joe Kelly, and Dave Anderson from Kennedy and Graven to discuss the administrative citation process and what that might look like here in Maplewood. And I think it also is an opportunity to educate council and the enforcement staff about what are the benefits of a citation process, administrative citation process. And, where should we do the criminal approach, or where can we do this? And I think that report should come before you within the next month or so. So they are working on that, and I highly recommend that that's something the council considers. I think it would be a lot more productive than the current method of trying to gain compliance with code enforcement.
The other point too, I know because I sit on the water board, the St. Paul Regional Water Services Board, and the water service also uses administrative hearings for those individuals that are having problems with their water bills. Obviously, there's a moratorium on that right now, but pre-COVID, that they used an administrative hearing process, and it was very effective. So it's something that I would like to add to this council comment section and see. I'm going to do a round robin with council members and find out if any of you have been talking to residents about problem properties in our neighborhoods. Councilmember Cave.
Yes, I have, and I have prior. And I know the frustration because nothing really happens because it is such a long process. So I definitely am in favor of having something speed up. So it shows the citizens that we are doing work, because I think they think that nothing's being done, even though the city's working very hard to get things done. There is a process we go through, and it is way too long. So I'm hands down in favor of this.
Thank you. Councilmember Juniman.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I'm in favor of it as well. My neighborhood, we are the victims of a problem property run amok, might I say. It's been a problem property for close to 3 years and has disintegrated, and our police department is more than closely familiar with this property now because nothing was ever done. And once you let something go downhill, and it wasn't the city, it was just everything that our people tried to do was ignored by the owner. It's a rental, and she would rather have whoever's living in that house there than in her house, apparently. And she just ignored everything. And what happens when you ignore all those things finally is you get the kind of people flopping in your neighborhood that you don't really want flopping. And so I think this is another way we might be able to get a hands on things, around things that might help before it gets to that level. Because our police department, and I give them so many kudos, they have worked so hard on this property, and the assorted individuals who flop there. Last year, there were 89 calls to that property alone, and they were all for significant items because it had gone so far and the owner never comes around. She ignores the fines for excessive calls for service and so on. So this might be a way, if you could stop it earlier and get their attention earlier, it might not get to that point. So yes, I'm very in favor of it.
Councilmember Knutson.
I haven't had many calls regarding, and it makes sense, but I'm wondering exactly how does it enhance enforcement?
City Manager Coleman.
Sure. Well, the thing that enhances enforcement is that we're not relying on our city prosecutor and the court system to address the code violations, and it puts it in our hands. We bring in a hearing officer, and they listen just like you would in court. They listen to the city and they listen to the person who's been violating the codes, and they make a decision, and then it's done. Where we're not relying on courts to address the issue, as you've heard. Many judges don't really like to be bothered by these kinds of things, and now it's even more difficult because there's just not a lot of things happening in the court system right now. So they don't really like being bothered, and oftentimes instead of making restitution, they'll just fine them, and then the person just continues doing the violations.
Exactly.
So that's why we really are trying to break that cycle and just take care of it internally. And I do think it would help, as Councilmember Juniman just mentioned, in these really problem properties, if they're not paying the fines, that's another issue, but at least we try to catch it up front, like she suggested. And I think that it really will enhance our ability to get these under control quicker.
Thank you. Sounds good.
Councilmember Knutson, the property that I was emailing staff with about today on behalf of a resident, basically the complaints started between the time that the complaints started and the time that it actually even goes to an arraignment, which is the very beginning of the court process. It's about a year's period of time. And during the interim, nothing has happened. Now, some of this, the delay may be as a result of the pandemic, but it shortens up that time frame. I think that's the real value of this. So thank you. Councilmember Villavicencio.
Yes, thank you. I'm all for efficiency and making it more effective. And I think that, the proposal that Manager Coleman is speaking of makes sense. And I think the process should be sped up like that. I just want to make sure that we're looking at it through an equity lens as well, and making sure that we're not criminalizing poverty. And I think that's a way that we can do that sometimes is asking the question of why, why is the property that way? And sometimes if we ask that first, maybe there'll be solutions that are more effective in the long run. But I'm definitely open to hearing more and everything.
Okay, thank you very much, council members. So,
Mayor,
Councilmember Juniman, yes.
I'm sorry, I have one question I just thought of. What happens if there are no show at the hearing?
City Manager Coleman.
My recollection is that we would then engage the services of our prosecuting attorney.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And certainly there's an awful lot more to research and to learn about this and to work with Mr. Beatty's office and our prosecuting attorney as well. So we can add that to the council comments, and that's something that we can look forward to in our near future to see if we can bring some help to this lingering issue. So on to council presentations. Councilmember Juniman, you wanted to talk about a special Maplewood couple.
Yes, Mayor. In the Sunday Pioneer Press on Valentine's Day, the cover story on their Sunday Life section was about a Maplewood couple who has been married 75 years. They're 95 and 94 years old, and they picture them in their Maplewood home. They have lived in Maplewood for 60 years. And the story was submitted by their cardiologist, of all people, who says they're a living example of why we should still be happy in a pandemic time. And it was a wonderful article, but I just thought acknowledging them for being our residents for 60 years, and they're still hale and hearty after 75 years of marriage. And their names are Elaine and Merlin Ader, and they have lived in Maplewood in the same house since 1961.
Wow.
Thank you very much. That's a very cool story.
Isn't that cool? It was just
Very
wonderful.
Wow.
So I just wanted to acknowledge them.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Moving on, our next agenda item is the North Fire Station. This is Chief Mondor. I'll turn it over to you. We can see the PowerPoint.
Mayor and council, thank you. We've recently completed the third phase, or 90% completion of architectural design for the North Fire Station construction project. Staff plans on continuing to provide regular updates to the council throughout the project, and this milestone represents an opportunity for us to provide an update and gather feedback as we get ready for the project to go out to bid. On the call with me tonight are Brian Bergstrom from our architectural team. He's the project manager from Short Elliott Hendrickson, or SEH, and Jason Rentmeester, who represents our construction manager. Jason is the senior project manager from Kraus Anderson Construction. I will be providing a bulk of the presentation this evening, but Brian and Jason will be adding some highlights and will be available for any questions. I wanted to start by giving a brief project timeline overview since the last council update. The last update was on November 9th, 2020. And if you recall, we had a good, better, best budget discussion at that meeting, and we're given some guidance following that to lean towards best, but consider better options. And we've continued to work through that process for the past couple months. On December 14th, the City Council provided preliminary approval for the issuance of bonds, and we received the bond bids, and they came back very favorably, as were detailed about a month ago. In February, we completed the third phase of architectural design, representing 90% completion of architectural design. And on February 16th, the Community Design Review Board reviewed the project and design and approved us moving forward with the plan with some minor adjustments to signage, in which I'll show you some of those updates here tonight. We were able to respond to their feedback and add some updated images. And that brings us to tonight. I just wanted to quick review the guiding principles that have been with us throughout the design of this project. We want to focus on function and operations and sustainability or long-term use, with the hopes of making this a 40 to 50-year station that meets the needs of our firefighters, but also meets the emergency operation needs of emergency management and community needs as a community gathering space. We want to build in elements of community pride and focus on firefighter safety and wellness. With that, I'm going to have Brian Bergstrom from SEH walk through the exterior elevations so that he can provide some added detail of what, renderings only go so far, and we wanted to be able to provide you with what this building will look and feel like from an exterior perspective. Brian?
Thank you, Chief Mondor.
Welcome.
Hello. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, we are. Go ahead.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Chief Mondor, Mayor, Council. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you tonight. I wanted to just briefly walk through the exterior elevations with you and give you some idea of what we're looking at or what's being proposed for the new fire station. On your screen, you're looking at what is proposed for the north elevation of the station. The bulk of the materials will be precast, structural precast panels for the wall structures. Those precast panels will have integrated foam insulation in them, so you'll have a very thermally sound building. The exterior facade of the precast panels will have face brick, thin veneer face brick cast right into them. So from the exterior of the building, it will look and feel like a masonry brick building rather than a precast building. But the structure will be precast, which allows for some efficiencies in terms of construction schedule. We've also added some highlights, as you can see here on the north elevation, the apparatus bays. We've included some metal panels. That's the red colored area above the apparatus bay doors. Directly above that is a ribbon window or clear story window. So we're incorporating a lot of natural daylight into the facility for visibility and just for to make the station feel kind of more open and inviting to the staff. We've also added some elements on the two-story portion of the building, which is to the, if you're looking at the screen, it's to the left-hand side. We've incorporated some additional metal panels along with two brick colors, as we talked about. Those will be in the precast, the thin veneer. So we'll have two different shades of brick color. And then you'll see we have some additional metal panel features, the red accent with, in this version, it shows the letter N. And that was part of the discussion we had with the Community Design Review Board, which has now been modified. This is the east elevation. The east elevation is essentially the main elevation for the public if they were to come to the building, park in the parking lot. This is the elevation they would approach. You see the main door centered in the building by the flagpole. Again, two different colors of brick veneer throughout the facade. And there you see the red element as well, design element from the other side. Here we're looking at the south elevation of the station. Again, here we're using the same materials, the brick precast with the brick veneer. You will see on either end, to the right or left, we have some darker color wall. Those are also metal panels. A little bit of a change in the feel and texture of the building. So we're breaking up, so we're not having so much brick, giving it a little bit of a different architectural feel with some different materials and little bit of a different texture to the facade. And there again, you'll also see, you'll see the apparatus bay doors, which will be glass. Again, bringing in a lot of natural daylight to the facility. And then again, you'll see the red highlighted feature there on the right-hand side. And the final elevation is the west side. Here again, you'll see some more of the metal panel being used on the upper portion, the darker area there. We also have some translucent panels called out. Those look into a storage mezzanine or an area for mechanical that has storage and mechanical equipment. So translucent panels, kind of a shaded window, will allow some natural daylight in, but not allow direct visibility into those spaces. And again, some more of the metal panel and the brick veneer where the command parking garage is, which is on the right-hand side of the image.
And Mayor Abrams, I plan on taking back over, but I wanted to open up the opportunity if the mayor or anyone, because one of the council members have any questions for Brian at this point.
Good idea. Let's run through our list. Councilmember Cave.
No.
Councilmember Juniman.
Yes, Mayor, I do. It's kind of a minor question, but in the color indications on our drawings, it's obvious that red is the one color that's identified, but what is color number 1? I think 3 is red.
You're referring to precast color number 1 or metal color number 1?
Metal color number 1.
So we have used 3 different metal panels on colors of metal panel on the building. Mm-hmm. Metal panel number 2, you'll see is the roof edge, and it's the darker metal panel. Mm-hmm. Color number 3 is the red, and color number 1 is actually, if you flip back around to the north elevation, if you're able to do that. Right there, you'll see color number 1 is, it is actually, there's a lighter color metal panel that kind of, try and describe it here. On the 2-story part, it comes
Right.
up and over.
Yep.
That actually is metal, intended to be metal color number 1. So we have 3 different colors of metal.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Councilmember Knutson. Councilmember Villavicencio.
I just have one small question. Is there any additional lighting that will be put in around the building?
Yes, we do have both site lighting and building mounted lighting. So out into the site, we will have some parking lot lighting and some accent lighting lights around things like flagpoles and those types of elements. We do have building accent lighting as well, which will provide some, highlight some features. For example, signage will be lit, and there will be some, exterior doors will be lit, and we do have some accent lighting on the north side as well, just to kind of provide some features at night to the facility.
Okay. Then Chief Mondor, we'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Mayor Abrams. As I had mentioned, we did receive some feedback from the Community Design Review Board around signage. Particularly, they weren't favorable of there was an N, which was meant kind of as a placeholder for the North Fire Station. So we've taken a crack at building into some of the Maplewood branding and envision that final maple leaf there to look more like a silver outline, similar to the silver writing on the building. And this provides a little bit better detail on as it relates to what that thin brick veneer will look like throughout the building. Here's the north elevation. Again, just highlights the follow-up from the CDRB. We have our motto above the garage bay doors right now. That was more of just a placeholder. We plan on putting the apparatus labels above those, each individual apparatus bay, similar to what's done down at the South Station. And then you'll see the North Station sign there on what will be kind of on the Hazelwood and County Road C corner. Added some signage just so that you could see if you're coming out down Hazelwood on that Hazelwood County Road C corner, I'd be able to identify that it is the North Fire Station from Hazelwood. And then there's just another view from the west on Hazelwood facing east. And then one more look from the southwest vantage point, kind of just showing again the detailed brick and a little bit more detail on this higher resolution image. So that wraps up the exterior portion of the building, and I wanted to just walk the council through the interior of the fire station itself. As I mentioned earlier, this building has been being built focusing on firefighter safety. Firefighters are at an increased risk for getting cancer and dying for cancer, up to 9% more likely than the general public to get cancer and 14% more likely to die from cancer. And so there's been a large trend even since we built the fire station in the south end in 2014 to be more thoughtful about how we're mitigating the cancer impacts to our firefighters. And so we've designed the building with a red, yellow, green, and that represents levels of risk and levels where we're trying to take mitigation efforts in cancer. And so moving left to right, or Hazelwood is off to the left of your screen, and County Road C is to the north of your screen. We have the tool and equipment rooms and gear storage and gear washing areas off to the left bay. Then the apparatus bay, where we've taken efforts to make sure that the exhaust from all the trucks will be evacuated from that area in a timely manner. It still is considered a higher risk area. And then when firefighters come back from a fire, we've taken several steps to improve our decontamination processes, both on scene and after the scene. And our goal and the goal nationally is to shower within the hour to get those contaminants off your body and to get your soiled clothes washed and not wear those throughout the shift. Even in my 19 years in the fire service, it used to be a badge of honor to have the soot on your face and that bonfire smell as you return from the fire. And we've changed dramatically over the past 15 to 20 years to acknowledge the increased cancer risk. So as we move to the center of the station, you'll see some yellow areas. To the north and south are stairwells, but kind of in the center, if you can see my mouse, we have a decon area where firefighters can come back, launder their clothes, and each staff member can rotate through with the goal of getting everyone that's on shift a shower within the hour if they were exposed to contaminants at a fire incident scene or otherwise. As we move into the main body of the station, we've really focused on trying to create rooms that are multi-purpose rooms and not singular use. So we have a training room that will also double as the emergency operations center when needed, and a community gathering space when the time is appropriate for us to be able to gather again. The breakout rooms 1 and 2 will serve as training breakout rooms, breakout spaces for emergency operations center use, and also available for community gatherings as needed. There's a small kitchenette in there to support those operations. We've integrated an ode to our history in the lobby and kind of moving into the training EOC room so that we can pay respect to how we've gotten to where we're at today as the Maplewood Fire Department. And then down on the southeast corner is the administrative offices and staff workspaces. Moving to the second level, again, you're moving left to right or from Hazelwood back towards Geranium. We have a mezzanine storage area in the apparatus bay. We have a small mezzanine that will host miscellaneous equipment and elevator equipment. The stairwells, as I mentioned earlier. And then we have the living quarters for our staff that work 24-hour shifts. So there's bunk rooms and study areas and a kitchen and day room, as well as physical fitness area. Our physical fitness areas today are very limited, and cardiac arrest and cardiac death is the leading cause of firefighter death. And so this will be open to all public safety staff. And we want to be able to focus on the things that are injuring and killing our firefighters, and that's been built into the plans in this as you see them. And with that, I'd like to kind of just give you a brief timeline of what is proposed for next steps in the process, and I'll hand it over to Jason Rentmeester in a minute. But as I mentioned, we went to the CDRB on February 16th. We'll be going to the Planning Commission on March 16th. We're providing you with an update tonight, and we'll request for approval for a resolution for the project to be able to be advertised for bids later on in the agenda. Our goal is to have the project out for bid on March 5th and have bids back by March 22nd with the goal of requesting that the City Council approve those bids on April 12th if everything proceeds as we have it today. And with that, I would like to hand it over, with your permission, Mayor, to just Jason Rentmeester, who's the Senior Project Manager from Kraus Anderson, so he can talk generally about the bid process and their philosophy behind soliciting bids, and then get a little bit more into the construction project timeline.
Great. Thank you. Welcome, Jason.
Thank you. It's great to be here tonight, and pleasure to speak with you all. Yeah, so just excited to be here. Excited for the opportunity to work with you all. It's been a great process so far, and we're looking forward to nearing the end of the design process, moving into bidding, and then what we got into business for construction, right? The exciting stuff. So going out to bids, I think, Chief wanted us to talk about our philosophy on that. And so as a construction manager, our role is to delineate the work across the various trades for this project. And so our approach is to delineate that into categories that make sense for the metro markets, and leverage the strengths of the contractors in our area to provide, a good quality product for you, but also that it comes in at a good, fair price. And we break these out in the manner that we do, so that we can limit the amount of markups that are on those work scopes, and then those savings translate into further value into the building. On the bidding process, so documents are going to come over late this week, and we'll be taking a week to put those work scopes together. From there, we'll be reaching out to our network of contractors. It's north of 500 contractors in the area that we'll be inviting to this project, as well as soliciting bidders through the various exchanges in the Twin Cities area, and some of the electronic or online construction building exchanges. From there, we'll advertise the bids per the Minnesota statutes, and then we will have a pre-bid meeting. We'll invite the contractors, in this case, for a virtual meeting where they can ask questions. And with that in mind, we'll take those questions. We'll issue one last addendum to clear anything up, and then from there we'll bid the project on March 22nd. Maybe one thing I'd like to hit on in that timeline is, when we were interviewing for the project, the city of Maplewood made it very clear that there's a focus on inclusion and diversity. And within this process, we're inviting a number of contractors in the area. And with this project, it's our intent to place some deliberate focus on some of the disadvantaged women-owned and minority-owned businesses in the area, and extend them a very specific invite to bid on this project. What else was I going to say? From there, the bid opening will happen. It's an online platform that we use to open those bids. And then from there, we'll vet all those bids out and come to you with a recommendation on the 12th. And then from there, we'll be issuing contracts, gathering submittal and project documents from those contractors, and getting started here this summer. I probably went a little too far into the weeds, but hopefully it all made sense. Is there any questions?
Very helpful. Thank you very much for that. Council members, we're going to do a round robin and see if you have any questions for the presenters tonight. Chief Monder, do you have anything more?
I have a couple more slides, Mayor.
Oh,
but
okay.
If you would like, I think if people have any questions for Jason, this would be appropriate if anything's popped up.
Okay. Councilmember Cave.
No questions, just a comment, Jason and Michael. Very good presentation so far. I look forward to seeing, the summer start.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Juniman.
Nice presentation. What a great building. No questions.
It is beautiful. Councilmember Knudsen. Councilmember Knudsen. Councilmember
No questions.
Villavicencio.
No
Councilmember
questions at this time. Sorry.
Okay, and I have no questions either. Chief Monder, we'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple more slides and I'll wrap this up. But I just wanted to mention, again, this is all tentative on your approval to move forward, but this is what we're proposing at this time as far as the bid timeline. And if everything continues to progress as it has been, we would propose to vacate the Hazelwood Fire Station for construction prep on or around May 31st, which would allow us to begin demolition and construction in July of 2021. There's several steps, and we'll provide you with more updates and more detailed timeline once we get into that process and receive bids. The goal is to occupy the new fire station in May of 2022. And so with that, I'd certainly open it up to any other questions or discussion that you may have, Mayor and Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Mondor. Council members will do another round here just to make sure that we've got everyone's questions answered. Councilmember Cave.
No questions.
Councilmember Juniman.
Thank you, Mayor. If we're vacating Hazelwood as of May of this year, where are those staff members going to be housed in the meantime? Just so the public knows.
Councilmember
Chief Mondor.
Mayor, Councilmember Juniman, aligning with the recommendations from Fitch and Associates in 2017, they will be relocating to the Gladstone Fire Station. A majority of the demand is in that area, or in this area, including the Hazelwood area. So they will be relocating to the closest station, which would be the Gladstone Station.
Thank you. And I have one more question.
Certainly.
In your presentation about the new building, you talked about all the safeties you're building in, which is a great thing. And you said something about how things have even changed since we built the South Station. Is there anything in, this is a can of worms I probably shouldn't open, but I still would like to know anyhow. Is there anything missing at the South Station that we're going to need to do to increase the safety level there, as long as it's been brought up?
Councilmember Juniman, luckily we weren't too far off with our design as some of this research has come out. So at this point, without any major changes to that structure, we're comfortable with how it's laid out. We've taken other cancer mitigation efforts to get firefighters 2 sets of turnout gear so that they can swap them out and wash them without having downtime. But I don't have any major recommendations that would change the South Station at this time.
Thank you. I just want to make sure, as long as we're doing it. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Knudsen.
No questions.
Thank you. Councilmember Villavicencio.
No questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Chief Mondor, and our presenters tonight. It was a very comprehensive report, and we're all looking forward to the summer months. Thank you, Councilmember Cave. It is going to be summer, and we're going to start construction. So, assuming that we take that vote tonight. So thank you very much. That was a very helpful presentation. Moving on to our agenda, we're on to the consent agenda. We have 7 items. Is there a motion?
I move approval of the consent agenda items G1 through 7.
Is there a second? Moved by Juniman, seconded by Knudsen. The consent agenda items 1 through 7. Is there any further discussion?
Mayor, this is Councilman Knudsen. I'd like to call out or move number 2. I have a conflict. I have a business relationship with the owner of that property, and so I'd like to recuse myself from that vote.
Hey, then maybe what we should do.
I'll restructure my motion if you want me to.
Thank you. That would be good.
Okay, I move consent agenda items G1 and 3 through 7.
Second.
Okay, moved by Juniman, seconded by Cave. Consent agenda items G1 and 3 through 7. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, then we will vote on that restructured motion. Councilmember Cave.
Aye.
Councilmember Juniman.
Aye.
Councilmember Knudsen.
Aye.
Councilmember Villavicencio.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. And
I
now,
further move item number 2 of the consent agenda, G2.
Second.
moved by Juniman, seconded by Cave, consent agenda item G2. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, then we'll vote. Councilmember Cave.
Aye.
Councilmember Juniman.
Aye.
Councilmember Knudsen.
Abstain?
Councilmember Villavicencio.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Thank you very much. Moving on to public hearings. We have a public hearing tonight, and we're going to start off with the staff report, and then we will go to questions from the council. Then I will open up the public hearing, and we will listen to anyone who calls in. Mr. Folds will take care of that. And then once we have given everyone an opportunity to speak, then I will close the public hearing, and then we'll go to council discussion. So with that, Mr. Love.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Council. Are you able to hear me okay?
Yes, we are.
Excellent. So I'm just pulling up a shared screen here. As you mentioned, we have a public hearing tonight. So I'll be giving a little bit of a background about the project and also a bit of background about why we're having the public hearing tonight. There are a number of items that are part of this report. We have them listed out in the order in which council will consider them. As you mentioned, we'd be having a public hearing, followed by which the council would be considering a waiver from the city code stream buffer requirements. Then if that were to be granted, council would consider the resolution approving plans and specifications and advertisement for bid. And if the council does approve that, then the last item would be considering the use of Bolt and Mink for professional services for the bidding and construction phase of the project. So a little bit about the background. Maplewood is responsible for several bridges throughout the city, and Sterling Street crosses Fish Creek just south of Carver. I have a kind of a dot here on the map, kind of showing where the bridge is. We have Carver running east and west, and Sterling Street running north and south here. This is a wooden timber bridge that was built in 1942. Our latest bridge inspection gave it an unofficial sufficiency rating of 29.1 out of 100. So it's definitely in need of replacement. Back in 2016, we began working with our consultants, Bolton and Mink, on a design concept for replacing this wooden timber bridge. Essentially, what we came up with was replacing it with a very large concrete box culvert. In a lot of ways, it acts very much like a box culvert. It is a 16-foot by 10-foot box culvert, so it is considered a bridge at the same time. Reason why we're going with this is it really reduces the amount of construction cost, the time to complete a project, as well as the long-term maintenance that a typical bridge would have over a standard box culvert design. Part of the design also required us to get several variances. The first one, we worked with our partners at State Aid, and this was a really big one. We got a variance to essentially keep the road elevation at the same as it is today. If we were to build the road for State Aid standards, the vertical curve or the curve of the road would have actually had to been elevated quite a number of feet to meet those requirements. But by getting that variance, we really minimized any impact to the floodplain as well as the stream buffer area. Additionally, contingent upon us getting that, the watershed district did also give us a variance for the very small amount of fill that would be needed to complete this project. So we really minimize the impact to the surrounding area there by getting these two variances. Which kind of brings us to the discussion of why we're having a public hearing tonight. So Maplewood's wetland ordinance requires a 100-foot buffer be maintained around creeks. Public projects such as streets and utilities are subject to the buffer requirements. And these buffer requirements do prohibit construction and alteration within the buffer area. Now, this wetland ordinance does allow the city council to waive these requirements where there would be a greater public need for the project than to meet the requirements of the ordinance. And the staff does feel that that need is there with the need to replace this aged bridge. And that's really the item that is that we're having a public hearing on. The ordinance does require residents within 350 feet of the project to be notified. We actually notified everybody that lives south of Carver and north of Bailey Road here of the project. We also notified the city of Newport, and they mailed the few residents that live along this very southerly edge of the Sterling Street with our project letter. So we wanted to make sure that everybody, including the neighborhood that lives to the east of Sterling, were notified about the pending project. Overall, the project is estimated at $958,000. The city staff was notified that we were successful in obtaining local bridge bond replacement funds. We were able to receive $538,111. So this really significantly reduces the city's share of the cost of this project. It cuts it a little more than in half. If the project were to move forward, we would be coming back in April for you to consider awarding a project. Construction would most likely begin in June and end sometime in August. And with that, I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Love. I appreciate the presentation and what a great opportunity. Thank you to staff for working to get a grant for $538,000. That's really quite amazing. Great work on that. So questions, council members. Councilmember Cave.
I have a question just about the buffer requirements. If your staff is saying that, you know, the buffer, you're saying that you're recommending that we waive them. What type of issues could come by waiving them with the drainage that goes through the area there? Because I know it's very it's high, you know, and then it goes down low, and you have the Fish Creek on the other side. What is the potential harm that can be done with this?
Sure. So I have a sketch here, or a diagram that I didn't have until today to be able to share with you. And this will probably help bring things into a little bit of a context here. So we have Sterling Street running north and south. This green box here is the proposed culvert. These blue lines are the road right-of-way lines, and Fish Creek runs right through here. So the buffer itself would actually encompass the entire roadway within the buffer. And so the waivers allow us to do the work within the buffer. These variances greatly reduce the amount of fill in here. We will have to meet all of our NPDES requirements for protecting the downstream waters from erosion during the project. And the areas outside of the right-of-way here, we're working with Ramsey County Parks. They own this land, and we are working with them on permanent and temporary easements for the work. And these will be restored back with natural grasses.
Okay. Thank you, Steve.
Yep.
Councilmember Cave, do you have any other questions?
No, not at this time. Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Juniman.
Thank you, Mayor. I think Steve just pretty much, as you can imagine, when I was reading the report, I went, whoa, we're talking about a waiver for, you know me, and buffer requirements. But once I read it, obviously, they're working in tandem with the Ramsey Washington watershed. And so between the two entities, I'm thinking they've got it pretty well figured out. And as it says here, it will minimize the impact to the stream buffer area and keep the fill in the floodplain to a minimum. So actually, the way they're doing it is the way it needs to be done for it to be the least impact. So I have no issue with that. That would have been my one issue. And like you, I'm so grateful that they applied for that grant. But I am very relieved to see that the wetland variance was necessary, but it was necessary not just for the project, but to keep the buffer in better shape. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Juniman. Councilmember Knudsen.
I think this is well done. A lot of these setbacks are basically for discretionary kind of development. Building this bridge is not discretionary. So, and the way it's being done with that type of culvert is really a great strategy. So I support this.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Villavicencio.
No questions at this time.
Thanks. I too want to chime in on that this seems to be an excellent solution that will minimize impact. And thank you for the collaboration with the watershed district in working through all of this to come up with the best solution that will be environmentally sound. So thank you for that. So we have gone to all of our questions, and now it is going to be time to hold the public hearing. And so with that, I am going to open up the public hearing for the granting of a waiver from the city code stream buffer requirements. Mr. Folds, how many people do we have tonight?
Mayor and Council, we have 3 individuals attending. I would like to note that the phone number, so we actually have 2 individuals. The phone number is Mr. Bergstrom's phone number that he used to call in for his audio presentation earlier. So we have Mr. Bergstrom and Mr. Rittmeister still on the line from their presentation earlier. If you would like to ask them if they would like to give public comment, they have the ability to unmute themselves at this time.
Okay, Mr. Bergstrom, this is a public hearing concerning the waiver from the city code stream buffer requirements for the Sterling Street Bridge Replacement City Project 16-25. Would you like to make any comment on this?
Mayor and Council, if I may just remind, oh, there you are, Brian.
All right, no comment.
Okay, thank you. And the other one is Mr. Rensmaster. Would you like to make any comment concerning this Sterling Street Bridge replacement?
No comment.
Okay, Mr. Folds, is there anyone else on the line?
Mayor and Council, there is not.
Okay, then with that, I am going to close the public hearing. And council members, we have several motions before us. Before we do that, let's see if there's any other questions that anyone might have of Mr. Love. Councilmember Cave, any other questions?
No, not at this time.
Councilmember Juniman.
No, thank you.
Councilmember Knudsen.
No, thank you.
Councilmember Villavicencio.
No, thank you.
Okay, then let's consider the motions that we have. Would someone like to, the first motion is the motion to grant a waiver from the city code.
I would like to move the waiver from city code stream buffer requirements for this project.
Second.
Moved by Juniman, seconded by Knudsen, the motion to grant a waiver from the city code stream buffer requirements. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Councilmember Cave, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Juniman.
Aye.
Councilmember Knudsen.
Aye.
Councilmember Villavicencio.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. The next motion, would someone like to make that concerning the resolution approving plans and specifications?
I will move the resolution approving plans and specifications and advertising bids for this Sterling Bridge project.
Second.
Moved by Juniman, seconded by Cave. The motion to approve the attached resolution approving plans and specifications and advertising for bids for the Sterling Street Bridge Replacement City Project. Any further discussion? Hearing none, how do you vote, Councilmember Cave?
Aye.
Councilmember Juniman?
Aye.
Councilmember Knutson?
Aye.
Councilmember Villavicencio?
Aye.
I vote aye as well. We have one last motion concerning the use of Bolton and Mink.
I move approval for the use of Bolton and Mink Incorporated for the professional services for City Project 16-25.
Second.
Moved by Juniman,
Nobody else did it.
seconded by Knutson.
Aye.
The motion to authorize the use of Bolton and Mink for bidding and construction and phase services. And okay, so any further discussion? Hearing none, then how do you vote, Councilmember Cave?
Aye.
Councilmember Juniman?
Aye.
Councilmember Knutson?
Aye.
Councilmember Villavicencio?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. All those motions pass. We have no unfinished business tonight. We do have new business. Resolution approving plans and specifications and authorizing advertisement for bids for the North Fire Station. Mr. Mondor, back to you again.
Mayor and council, thank you. As we discussed earlier during the presentation, we are at the point where we're getting prepared to go out for bid for the North Fire Station construction project. And as part of that, we have before you a resolution approving plans and specifications and authorizing that advertisement for bids for the project. We're near at the 95% completion of architectural documents. Once we get to 100%, those will go over to Kraus Anderson to develop the bid set, and we need your approval prior to releasing those advertisements for bids, and that's what we have before you tonight.
Mayor, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Councilmember Juniman. Sounded pretty good when I was saying it. Oh, okay. You'd think that we would get so used to this. Anyway, let's go to questions. Councilmember Cave.
No, thank you.
Councilmember Juniman.
No, thank you. Presentation
No.
prepared.
Councilmember Knutson.
No, thank you.
Councilmember Villavicencio.
No, thanks.
And I have no questions either. Then would someone like to make the motion?
I happily move approval of the resolution approving plans and specifications and authorizing advertising for bids for the North Fire Station construction project. Yes.
Second.
Second.
Moved by Juniman, seconded by Knutson by just a fraction of a second. Sorry about that.
Thirded
Cave.
by Cave.
Okay, third by Councilmember Cave.
Yeah.
Motion to approve the attached resolution approving plans and specifications and authorizing advertisement for bids for the North Fire Station construction project. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, then let's go to a vote. Councilmember Cave.
Aye.
Councilmember Juniman.
Aye.
Councilmember Knutson.
Aye.
And Councilmember Villavicencio.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. The motion passes.
What
One
a
more
great
step.
project.
One more step towards our new fire station.
50-year monument.
Yes, yes. All right, we have no award of bids tonight. And so council members, we are at the conclusion of our meeting. And I always like to, since we're doing these virtually, to give each council member an opportunity to make any remarks that they'd like to at the end of the council meeting. So here's our opportunity. Councilmember Cave.
Just a quick thank you once again to staff. You guys are all doing an amazing job. It's really nice coming to the meetings and only having a few questions because everything you pretty much have prepared on the the packets that are given to us. So thanks, you guys. Have a good week.
Thank you, Councilmember Juniman.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I think this is another wonderful meeting, Zoom or any other way. We had some really good things tonight. Of course, the fire station project is the most exciting. That is, who would have thought 5 years ago we would get to this point? It's wonderful. Tonight on the 5:30 news, they did announce, of course, that we surpassed a very unhappy or sad number nationally. We have now passed 500,000 people dying of the virus. So we still need to be attentive to what we're being asked to do. I guess there's some concern about the UK variant moving rather rapidly, and we certainly don't want to go backwards. So I guess I'm just asking everyone in the community to do what we can with the masking and the social distancing and doing as much as you can from a distance rather than in person. And we've been doing so well as a city. Congratulations to everybody who's helping that happen.
Thank you. Councilmember Knudsen.
Yeah, just kind of reflecting, a number of years ago, I was on that EMS task force and we started to talk about fire stations. And tonight we're moving ahead with the fire station. One of the things I was thinking about when I wrote the article for the review, I was thinking about St. John's Hospital and some of the early days of planning. And you always look back and you, as you're planning something, you think, are these decisions durable? Are they going to make sense years down the line? Is someone going to look back and say, what were they thinking? Or, wow, what great insight. So I think this fire station, you know, and the whole idea of having 2 fire stations that the task force was tasked with is really coming out great. I feel fully confident in our task force and fully confident in our group to get this thing done. So thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Villavicencio.
Yes, thank you. I just want to also thank everyone who in our community that has been putting the effort into staying safe. And I want to continue urging everyone to stay safe and in these trial of times. And also want to lift up my brothers and sisters in the Asian community, and because there's been an increase in violence against Asian Americans. Yeah. And I want to just say that, you know, as leaders of our community, we are here for anybody who has experienced that. And please come forward if that happens, either to the police or myself or any of us here. So thank you.
Hear, hear.
Thank you for that, Councilmember Villavicencio. And, you know, thank you all for helping us to move forward and complete the business of the city. Doing it virtually certainly isn't anyone's first choice, but, you know, we continue, and I just marvel at technology when it works well, but the fact that we can get so much done and keep things moving. So thank you, everyone. Have a good rest of the week. Thanks and good night.
Good night.